Hi, everybody. Rick DiClemente with Astrology Unplugged. And tonight we have a lot of different subjects. I come from Pittsburgh area and I'm with starself.com. You can look us up under Astrology Unplugged on YouTube and you will get a variety of different subjects. I try to make it intriguing about the different parts of astrology. And then, as you know, about once a month or so, I like to have a guest on who can stretch our brains a little bit, especially with the new quantum field. And last week, since we had the physicist on, my good friend Dr. Ted Spickler, he got our ears warmed up by talking about quantum mechanics. I told you I was going to go over a story with you this week about what happened to me and to the world in 2011. I'm going to be posting later on the exact text if you want to go get that article from my website. There are long articles I've already done. There are videos I've already done about precession of the equinoxes, etc. I'll be giving those to you. There's some graphics involved tonight I want to explain to you, separate stories, and then I'm going to show you how it all came together during the big eclipse in 2011, January 4th. And I'm on a roll here campaigning that I think we should start saying the year first, then the month, then the day. Instead of month, day, year, which really makes no sense. If it's year first, then month, and then day, every day gets bigger. So there's that. Now, I was watching a movie the other night, so I want to get this out of the way because it's really intriguing. It was called Big Eyes. If you've not seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, turn your sound off. But I want to talk about a critical point in the movie. It was a movie about a woman who's 96 years of age now, 94. She is a very famous artist for having drawn in the 60s. She became popular with these drawings of children, especially with large round eyes. And you saw them everywhere. And what's her name escaping me now? Keane. Margaret Keane, Keane. And to give you an example, this is, oh boy, I'm really going to have to get the right buttons going. Okay. Let me get this going here. And I'm going to there you go. There's an example. I'm sure you saw thousands and thousands of these. This is her style. She said it was because she had a repressive background and because when she was young, she temporarily went deaf, so she learned to really concentrate on people's eyes. Well, they were a very big hit this time. Beautiful paintings, really. But the long and short of it, now, turn your sound off if you don't want the movie ruined. She had a very unscrupulous husband who took credit for her paintings. And she was I can't tell you much about her natal chart. She was a Virgo because I don't have the birth time. But she allowed this to go on for years and years. She became, I would think, into the millions, millionaire by him taking credit for having drawn the paintings. And she's all holed up kind of in a closet, drawing thousands of these paintings by herself. Well, what was so interesting to me is I kept saying to myself, I wonder what'll happen to this woman when Uranus hits her. Because here she is allowing her Libra husband to take credit for her work. So, I go to her birth chart. Okay. And you can see here, you can see that she's a Virgo, and there's a Neptune issue, but we don't know what's repressing her. We don't know why in those days that she allowed her husband to take credit for her work. But what's intriguing about it is by 1970, 1968, you could see Uranus started coming into position. You want to look closely here. Here's her sun at 21 Virgo. Here's her Mercury, her ruling planet. Here's the sun has been in about a year in Libra. So about the time that Uranus went into Libra, and you'll notice Pluto was near her sun, finding her strength, finding her individuality, she couldn't keep it quiet anymore. So by 1970, she came out of her shell. The Uranus on her Mercury and opposite Uranus, Uranus opposite Uranus, age 42, she couldn't take it anymore. In a lot of ways, if she hadn't come out of her shell, she would have died, either physically or metaphorically. But you see Uranus got opposite Uranus, and she came out, and it was so far out, and the movie was actually accurate, that she took him to court, and the judge said, okay, he put up 2 painting easels. He said, okay, both of you draw one of these pictures. And of course, the husband couldn't draw, and she drew one right away, and she won the case and ended up winning $1. Why'd she win the $1? She won $1 million. She told the judge she didn't want the money. So I gave her $1. But there you see exactly how the planets work. Uranus came into a position she could have woken up from her repression years earlier, but it just so happened to take that much time. She couldn't stand it anymore. That's Uranus. So it appeared sudden. He said, what's gotten into you? You're going crazy. What's wrong? You're flipping your lid, which is what happens when you're around people who are repressed. Then all of a sudden they wake up and you go, what's happened to you? What's happened to you is they've come into their senses. So it's a really intriguing story. You notice it was not exact, and I think that's because the whole year or two as Uranus was getting into position, even the night the Uranus got to 0 Libra, I'm sure she blew her stack. She let him have it. She brought it up. They talked about it somehow. But you can imagine what happens to people. Some people are so repressed that even when Uranus comes to town, they still don't say anything. I watched it happen in my own family. I watched people have strokes, seizures on the day that I knew was coming 10, 20 years earlier, because they don't have a connection to Uranus. Sounds far out. Some people don't have a connection to what I want to do. They think it's wrong, especially if they're Catholic or they're repressed religiously, they think it's wrong. Now, some people are so Uranian that they just go way off the edge. But anyhow, it was intriguing to watch that by the time Uranus came in position opposite Uranus, she was ready. Now, remember, her Uranus was at 1, 2, 3, 4 degrees. There are 30 degrees in a sign. So when your Uranus, when your natal planet is at 1, 2, 3, 4, that's like sitting by the doorway. As soon as the door opens, bam, you get hit. So here we go with Uranus about to enter Taurus in May of next year. Now, Taurus and all the fixed signs are like molasses. They're slow. The energy travels through them much slower. But if you've got a planet at 1, 2 degrees Taurus, 1, 2 degrees Scorpio, 1, 2 degrees Aquarius, 1, 2 degrees Leo, you're sitting by the door. So as soon as Uranus enters that sign, the minute you will feel the shock waves from this planet. Then when it gets on months later and hits your planet exactly, you'll feel another aspect of it too. So intriguing. I love to watch real stories of people, and they think it's them. They think it's their idea. What else can they think? And I also found out she was really into astrology. So she's 94, and I would love to call her someday and just tell her what happened in 1970. See how interested she would be. So tonight, we're going to talk about the Solvay conference. We're going to talk about what we kind of hinted around with Ted last week with physics. And this goes back to 2011. I'm going to bring up several stories to explain several stories, the 13 signs, the 2 zodiacs. Oh, my sign is not my sign anymore. And I'm going to tie it together into the day of the eclipse on January the 4th of 2011. That eclipse would have been about 13, 14 degrees of Capricorn 6 years ago. First of all, gigantic shock waves were sent through the ether, through the collective consciousness. About 5 days later, I was walking through my apartment and I almost got knocked over. I can actually feel these things sometimes. I knew something was up. It took me about 3 or 4 days to figure out what it was. And I've documented this in my articles, which I'll publish the name on later. There was a shock wave. I called the article "A Puncture to the Collective." So we go back to 1927. And we see that in Belgium, this is the Solvay conference in October of 1927 with Einstein, with Madame Curie and all the great physicists, and Heisenberg and Schrödinger and Max Planck, who was the father of quantum mechanics. Okay, so in 1927, these physicists got together and quantum mechanics punctured the collective in 1927. And they didn't like it because it didn't fit with their concrete physics, but quantum mechanics were here to stay. Especially Einstein didn't like it. Now remember, he lived till about 1955, 52, somewhere around there. Quantum mechanics was represented by Uranus and Jupiter were together in Aquarius. Now, if anything, quantum mechanics is Uranian because it's off the wall, it's sudden, it's disruptive, it's never what you think it is, it's quantum-like. So in 1927, till recently, we've been stewing with this. We've been working with this, but it hasn't hit home yet. So what happened? Somehow, around January 4th of 2011, somehow the disturbance in the collective was so strong that it ended up on the desk of this guy named Parkle, Professor Parkle, at a community college in Minnesota. This assistant professor at a community college is being interviewed by the newspaper saying what's going on. He doesn't know what to say. He doesn't understand it. The collective's being stirred. He had no idea what to talk about, but Uranus picks weird people to get started with. So he points out astrology doesn't work because there's 2 zodiacs. Astrology doesn't work because there's really 13 signs. He sends a panic throughout the world. Goes all throughout the world. If you'll recall, about every 5 years, you hear this stuff. 13th sign, 2 zodiacs, and they like to pull that out. Well, the real zodiac that the astrologers use isn't even right. They think we're that dumb. So he sends this panic, and I get on the trail of this several days later, but let's go back to what he's talking about. Then it'll make sense. In astrology, there are 2 kinds of zodiacs. There's the sidereal, which means sun. The sidereal zodiac is what the astronomers use. And they line up the planets with the constellations. The constellations have almost zero to do with astrology. Astrology has very little to do with the stars or the constellations. Astrology, Western astrology, is totally related to the moment of spring. If you are at the beginning of Libra, that means you're born 6 months exactly after spring, period. Not astronomy. So, back in the year of Christ, around then, if you would have shot an arrow through the sun, it would have gone through the sun and out, and it would hit the very beginning of Aries, the end of Pisces. It would hit right where the zodiac ends and begins. We were backing up 2,000 years to the age of Taurus. This is right. We were backing up from the age of Aries at the first sign into the 12th sign. The age of Pisces began. The fish began with Christ, because the precession of the equinoxes happens backward. So since 0 till 2000 something, we don't know when, the first 2,000 years have been the age of Pisces. And back in the year 0, the two zodiacs lined up. 26,000 years later, they will be back in sync again. Right now, they're off by one sign. They've been backing up through Pisces all these 2,000 years. So now at spring, if you shoot an arrow through the heart of the earth or through the heart of the sun, you'll intersect the first degree of Pisces. About to go into the age of Aquarius. Nobody knows when. There's a great argument. Was it already? Is it 2020? Is it 2025? We don't know yet because these ages are so big. So let me get my graphic on here and start showing you what's going on here. All right. Okay. Now, as you can see, if you draw an arrow coming out of the top of the North Pole, that arrow intersects the constellations. And the point that it intersects goes backwards for 26,000 years through the zodiac backward. That's called the precession of the equinoxes. Now, what that means is simply this, that every year at springtime, we're becoming 30 degrees of Pisces, 29 degrees of Pisces, 28 degrees of Pisces. It moves 1 degree every 72 years. So, after 2,000 and some years, we will be out of the age of Pisces, moving into the age of Aquarius. This is why the age of Aquarius is got all the connotations you hear about. We're going to become more Aquarian-like, living for our brothers and sisters, more high-tech, etc. And go back 4,000 BC, the age of Taurus, 2,000 BC, the age of Aries, warriors, take what you want, very elemental, go grab what you want to. And then we come into the age of a whole new zodiac. We back up into the age of Pisces. Jesus Christ is born. So the two zodiacs don't match, and they like to say the astrologers don't know what they're talking about, but they're two different zodiacs. So every year at the moment of spring, us astrologers cheat. We cheat. We call it 0 Aries. Everything we do in astrology is based upon that moment when day and night are equal, and we call it spring. Now, in astronomy, you look past the sun, and you're lined up with the first or second degree of Pisces. It's been backing up from 30 Pisces ever since. Okay? So that's why the age of Aquarius is on its way. It's so powerful when these ages shift. And there's nothing like the really super advanced signs of Aquarius and Pisces, because they're 11th and 12th signs of the zodiac. Very difficult to understand, very extreme. And if anything we need now, we need for this Pluto period that we're in to go by the by and to come into this age of Aquarius where we all start to realize the very simple statement of what I do to you, I do to myself. And that seems to be very foreign to a lot of concepts when we see the news. I want to get what's mine, this is mine, you ain't taking mine yet. The age of Aquarius is I do for you, it does for me. So that's why the two zodiacs are different. And in the year 13,000, halfway, the astrologers will be at 0 Aries again, always, every spring. And the astronomers will be at 0 Libra. Will be completely out of whack. So about every 2,020 years, we back up through one sign into the next. So throw a wrench in the works. The Fifth Dimension comes out with a song in 1967, when the moon is in the 7th house, the age of Aquarius. It is the age of Aquarius. Now, they were right that it was coming, but you know, popular music is, and it gets in people's ears. And the moon is in the 7th house once every day, and Jupiter aligns with Mars about every year. So the song's really way off course, but it sounded pretty. Okay, you got me so far? Good. So Professor Parkle starts talking about, oh, these astrologers, they don't know anything, you know. And I love what Newton said to his fellow astrologers. He said, I've studied this subject, have you? Because he was very much into astrology, as was Carl Jung. It just works. We don't even know why. Okay, so then, I don't know what Parkle did. I'm not going to speak for him. But then he got confused about the 13 signs. Well, the absolute reason that there isn't 13 signs is because astrology is based on 3 and 4. There are 3 qualities: cardinal, fixed, and mutable. Every sign is a cardinal, fixed, or immutable. Cardinal, the leaders; fixed, the fixers; mutable, the dispersers. There's 4 elements: earth, air, water, fire. 4 times 3 is 12. It's not 13. The zodiac is 30 degrees each. It's 12 signs. It will always be 12 signs. And the guy that got us in trouble was called Ophiuchus. He's the one that tried to sneak his foot into the zodiac. He's the serpent god. Let's take a look at him. All right. Okay, here's Ophiuchus. All right, you see Ophiuchus is a very big constellation. Here's the regular zodiac. Here's Scorpio, 30 degrees. Here's Sagittarius, 30 degrees. And then don't you see how Ophiuchus is got his tiptoe right in between Scorpio and Sagittarius? And that's what's caused all the argument. And it's interesting mythologically where Ophiuchus has some claim to this, but it's too confusing to bring in now. And guaranteed after you do the work, there are 12 signs. And if there were 13, you would have this. This is what you would have. This is what the zodiac would look like if you had 13 signs. And you take the Scorpios. Look how little Scorpio becomes. These are all 30 degrees, 30. Some of them are different, 25. This one's about 40. Scorpio goes down to about 10 degrees. And all you got to do is know some Scorpios who would be changed to Ophiuchans, and you know right away that it's not possible. They're still Scorpions. So now we got the water really muddied. Okay? So you would have to throw out a lot of Sages, a lot of Scorpios to make room for this 13th sign. One reason that it was attractive, it does make sense to have 13 moons it does make much more sense to have 13 months of 30 days each. I'm sorry, 13 months of 28 days each. And every month's got 4 weeks. Made a lot of sense. But now you've got the real shakeup, which is caused by Uranus. You got a professor talking about it that doesn't know what he's talking about. You've got people freaking out now because they're trying to take your sun sign away, right? The newspaper's publishing the dates. These aren't the right signs. These are the right signs. Hi, John. People freaking out. Oh, I got a tattoo. What am I going to do? So now you got the public really shaking. You can't blame the professor because he's trying, but he's got people so scared now with the wrong zodiac and 13 signs. But what he didn't notice was the bigger picture. And I knew something was up because I got about knocked over around January 8th. Something about knocked me over. I felt it. And I really work hard with the collective. And I can sometimes sense when the collective shifts. So, I said to myself, well, this is uncanny because it's worldwide. This is not just some Ellen DeGeneres show here. This is not just a couple people mumbling. This was panic across the globe. Astrologers everywhere were freaking out about this. They didn't know why. So I said, when you have moments like this, it's got to be Uranian. Even Mercury retrograde pales in comparison. It can't shake up a whole planet like this. So I went back in time 84 years. One cycle of Uranus. And I looked around to see what happened. And in October of 1927 was the Solvay Conference. Was when quantum mechanics, 27 years earlier, is when Planck made his constant, when Planck introduced the principle in 1927, 28 years after he made the proposition, it became standard. Now, 84 years later, watch this. It's now 2011. And there's an eclipse, which doesn't make it any smoother, it makes it worse. But watch what happens in 2011. The inner circle is 1927. Jupiter is at 24 of Pisces and Uranus is 0 Aries, only in Aries for a couple of days. And 84 years later, Jupiter and Uranus are back. Not only has Uranus gone all the way around once, Saturn has gone around 3 times, and Jupiter has gone around, what's 12 into 84? 7 times. So you have a return of Uranus at the same time that Jupiter. That's what caused the shock wave. They're both at 27 degrees. They hit the collective psyche. And when this kind of thing happens, the psyche feels it for those who are sensitive or tuned that way, such as me, that know it. Other people interpret it, oh, it's 13 signs. Oh, no, it's the wrong zodiac. Well, oh, no, I got to change my tattoo. But that's why last week I kept pressing Ted to tell us what changed in physics, in quantum physics, the last 6 years. And I knew from talking with him, he started to tell me that quantum mechanics has upset the apple cart so much, and entanglement has upset everything. They don't really know what they're doing now. They don't know because they don't want to let go of the physical. They don't know they don't know where to go. He kept talking about what happens if when it hits something out there in the world. What happens when these particles hit something out there in the world? There is no out there in the world. And that blows people's minds. And that's why 2011 was so shocking. And since then, the quantum has become a daily word. Quantum leaps has become more of a cogitation, more in our mindset. We don't understand it, but we're starting to become much more conducive with thinking of how it merges with spirit. You understand what I'm saying? This is how it happened. And that's the day it happened. And the eclipse was the carrier. The eclipse was on the 4th. The eclipse, the sun and moon are triggers. They will bring, especially the moon. The moon will deliver the minute that something happens. The sun, the day something happens. But the era shifting, the mind-blowing was the tension of Uranus going around and coming back to that point. It was already born of Jupiter, Uranus in 1927. Now they're both back home. Just one of them coming back was strong enough, but both of them. And now you've got what you're seeing now is everybody's trying to figure out, well, now how does it fit? And what are the spiritual people telling you? And I'm being very general here. They're all telling you, follow the heart and quit thinking about it. That's what they're all saying. And what did Ted say last week? Just quit thinking about it, do the formulas. So this is mechanically what happened. Mechanically. So let me run through these once again so that you understand how they fit together. So we see in 1927, this is 1900 is when Max Planck, here's Planck, he figures out the tiniest possibility that anything can be, called Planck's constant, by delving into the atom, and quantum mechanics is born. He gets all these fights from all these guys. They don't want to accept it. It doesn't fit. Here you see where Jupiter and Uranus are in 1927, and you see them returning 84 years later, and it's a higher octave. It's a higher octave of what was born there. There you see Ophiuchus trying to slip his toes into the zodiac. There you see the abuse of the zodiac, how we would be if you accepted the 13 signs. And there you see how the precession of the equinox causes the ages. So what's happening now is we are on course. We're backing up to the final tidbits of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. Everything is being marred now and being slighted now because we're in such a tremendous Plutonian period, because the United States is going through a Pluto return. We're going through Pluto opposite the sun, and it's obscuring everything. The eclipse in 4 days is on the president's Mars in Leo. The Leo eclipse is on Donald Trump's Mars in Leo in his first house in 4 days. Eclipses make things happen as much as 10 days early, anywhere to 5 days later. Their effects can go on for months. So what do eclipses do? And I've been chasing this up my whole life, and I don't know because they're so complicated. But I have definitely noticed, I think that the Martian eclipse that we just saw, remember his chart represents the country. I think that's what caused Charlottesville. The people in their minds, they can't take it anymore. They have to act. When Mars is involved, torches, swords, whatever, you have to act. I'm going to be, are you trying to say something, okay? I'm going to be addressing comments later on. I'm trying to keep my frame of reference here. Okay, so you see what's going on now is he can't put the genie back in the bottle. These people are saying things that he said. And boy, he's the expert at putting the genie back in the bottle. You got to quit looking at Trump as an individual. He's symbolic of usins. He's not just symbolic of Americans. He's symbolic of Western mind. He's symbolic of the mindset that doesn't work. He's symbolic of the patriarch. This is why this is all coming to a head. And when Mars is agitated and when Pluto is agitated, it's the worst time possible to try to go to the table and talk it out. North Korea, America. So, a lot of things are happening at once. What did Tarnas tell us recently? The great astrologer. It's time for heroic small groups. Whether you come here on Thursday night, and I appreciate it, whether Elke goes over and starts a medical group in Saskatchewan, whether Mark starts a group in Pittsburgh, whatever you're doing, heroic small groups. And that's what I heard last night on the TV. We don't have a president who is peace promoting. We cannot look to an institution now to do it for us. We have to do it ourselves. Now, forgive me. Elke, go ahead.
I just wanted to say it's hitting the pain body. The Mars is the pain body. And that's why everybody, you know, how much pain they experience. You know, even the people that are completely blind, they're acting out in pain. Everybody is in pain. And that's Mars too. Mars is pain.
Makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sure it does. People want to fight. They just don't. Who we're going to fight? Those nasty Germans in World War II, we knew exactly where to go and drop bombs. Now you can't. Is it Sudan? Is it Afghanistan? Where is it?
That's why they're resonating with that energy from back then. It's not that this is going to happen. It's just that that's what their pain is telling them, because that's the only point of reference that they're having.
That's exactly right. Ask your friends. Ask anybody you know why we're in Afghanistan.
Why are the Canadians in Afghanistan? Nobody knows.
Ask anybody.
Yeah.
We know the Russians failed, and they're right next door. Okay, so what's going on is there's this huge mindset. People are scared, yes. Osama to begin with. Yeah, explain that one, Erica.
Afghanistan. That's why we were supposedly there to begin with, because they were running away to Afghanistan.
Okay, he's dead. So why are we still there?
Well, that's a whole other thing.
Okay, I'm listening.
And I wonder what the real reason is. I don't know.
A lot of people say
it has something to do with Russia.
A lot of people say it's the poppy fields, but I don't know. But they lied to us. Susan F., did you have something you wanted to say?
No, they never tell us why we're in Afghanistan. They don't ever talk about it.
Yeah, but there are heroes over there, and we're to celebrate them, right? We know what they're doing. Why are we there?
Exactly.
What's happening when I keep telling people for years now? With Pluto opposite the United States sun. Pluto is, it doesn't have to be exact. That was exact a couple years ago. Pluto, that's another reason the Taliban was there, and they're everywhere. Okay. When you have an opposition to the sun, to understand the sun, which is the identity, you put the sun on the ascendant, the first house. And therefore, Pluto's coming from the seventh house. The seventh house is the house of known enemies. Iran, Iraq, Korea. They don't want us at these bases anymore. That's what's happening. We inherited, or we took upon ourselves, this role of the universal police. They don't want us there anymore. They want us to go home and mind our own business. They've got us, the government has us convinced that we're doing it for their sakes to protect our interests. Well, we know we're being lied to. So all this mindset has to shift. What does that mean? That means that to the degree that we are helping democracy, yes, we need to continue. And to the degree that we're being lied to protect American oil interests, that has to change. And to the degree that we're working at it, that's how much ease we will have with the Pluto time in reverse. The degree that we're not working on it is how much pain we're going to have. And that's what's happening. Does that make sense to anybody? This has all got to do with the seventh house, which means we have to work on our identity. Who is America really? And we have to work on it via the seventh house, via our relationships. Okay? And you're seeing people that don't want our president to come visit there. You're seeing people that want us to take our money and go home. You're seeing things change. And Americans are very good at resting on their laurels back at the Normandy beaches. Marilyn, did you want to say something? I can't see you. Let me try to find you. Marilyn is.
What are you doing, you silly kitty?
Marilyn is
Silly kitty, kitty.
asked to start video.
What are you doing, Littles? Hi, Billy. What are you doing?
Marilyn will start video later. Okay, I got people here that want to talk and I can't see them. I don't know what to do. Could this be Mercury retrograde? Okay, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to leave the audio going. I'm going to stop the video because this is really what the purpose of this night was about, and we'll continue with our questions. But tonight was about clearing up about the 13 signs, the precession of the equinoxes, the age of Aquarius, but mostly to show you why 2011 and 2017, we're right in the midst of it now. We're still adjusting to the shock wave, which was the acceptance of the age of quantum. And what does the age of the quantum show us? We're seeing books now called Quantum Forgiveness. What that means is when you forgive one, you forgive all. That's the mindset that we're shifting to. We didn't have this before 2011. It was words. Now you're seeing it everywhere. If I want to change the world, I simply change myself, and I change the world. That's the quantum. Goodbye, YouTubers. Thank you for attending.